Hello, good evening, students. So we'll start the first chapter of CA Inter Financial Management, that is scope and objectives of financial management. So I'll go as per the ICA study material sequence. So as per the ICA study material, the first chapter is scope and objectives of financial management. Okay, so we'll discuss the what is the scope of financial management, etc. Basically, so my way of teaching is to keep the things as simple as possible. I don't want to use complicated definitions, lengthy definitions, basic point, fundamental and most important point. I'll come to that point straightforward. So in simple words, financial management consists of planning and controlling of financial resources. Planning and controlling of financial resources. So planning means effective utilizing. Planning means prediction. Planning means we have to predict how much funds are required. So how to what is the stages of prediction? Both short term, medium term and long term. So we have to predict what is our short term funds requirement, what is our medium term funds requirement, and what is our long term funds requirement. How much I want to pay the salaries next month, how much I want to pay the rent next month, how much I want to pay the bank installment next month. So therefore first we have to plan that short term funds. Next comes is the medium term. Next comes is the medium term. Okay, some assets are going to depreciate at the end of the first year, so therefore we want to replace that assets. So medium term. So sir, what is the short term, what is medium term, and what is long term? Short term is very clear, less than 1 year. Short term is very clear, less than 1 year. Medium term, normally people say 1 to 5 years or 3 to 5 years is the medium term. So less than 1 year is a short term funds requirement, 3 to 5 years is a medium term requirement, and more than 5 years is a long term requirement. Okay, right. The definition of medium term and long term is going to be shrinking as the business environment becomes more and more uncertain. It is not possible to predict for 20 years, to predict for 30 years. Earlier, I used to say 30 years is my long term. Now there is no definition called as 30 years. So the world is very volatile, very uncertain, that there is no definition called as 30 years. There is no definition called as 30 years. Okay, right. So therefore now long term means you can stick on to 7 to 10 years max to max. Don't predict what is next 20 years or next 30 years. So therefore the definition of long term is going to reduce because of uncertainty, because of more uncertainty, more dynamic, more unexpected nature of a business environment. Okay. So therefore, financial management first aspect is predicting the funds requirement, short-term funds requirement, medium-term funds requirement, and long-term funds requirement. How much I need next month, how much I need within 1 year, how much funds I need after 3 years or 5 years, how much funds I need after 1 month, how much funds I need after 1 year, how much funds I need after 5 years. So planning both short-term, medium-term, and long-term funds. That is first point. Next, so after planning that, we have to control that resources also. We have to control that resources also. So after procuring the funds, when you are utilizing the funds, which will be very important, because planning for funds and obtaining the funds may be infrequent in nature. So once in a while they'll happen. It is not that every day I'll go to the bank and borrow money. It is not that every day I'll go to the capital markets and issue bonds or issue equity shares and get the money. So issuing of capital, raising funds is infrequent in nature. Most important and most recurring in nature is controlling of financial resources. Controlling of financial resources more frequent and more recurring in nature. So what exactly mean by controlling of financial resources? Ensure that no assets is idle and ensure that funds are not wasted. Funds are not wasted, costs are controlled. We are not borrowing, we are not buying the assets at high cost. Okay, we are not spending excess amount for utilities, etc. So therefore controlling all the expenses, ensure that all the assets are working properly, no asset is idle, and there is no wastage. So control is most important. Continuous activity. So the difference between successful and failure financial managers lies in this point. So many financial managers are good at procurement of funds, and very few financial managers are good at controlling of resources, ensuring that funds are not wasted. No asset is sitting idle. Every asset you are making best use. Okay, that is the point. So therefore the success lies in controlling of financial resources. Tight line, no wastage. Even every rupee count, every dollar counts. So no wastage of financial resources. Okay, these are the basic point. We have to predict how much funds are required, obtain the funds, and when you are utilizing the funds, ensure that there is no idle assets and there is no wastage of money. No idle assets, no wastage of money. That is controlling. No idle assets, no wastage of money. That is controlling. Controlling of financial resources. Okay. So I have not procured the machinery at higher cost. No wastage of funds means example, not purchasing the asset at higher cost, purchasing the assets at reasonable cost. No wastage means purchasing the asset at reasonable cost, not at high cost. Efficient use means after purchasing the asset at reasonable cost, I have to use it. I should not keep it idle. We got the point, ma? So first thing is ensure that I purchase the asset at reasonable cost, not at high cost. I purchase the asset at reasonable cost, not at high cost. Thereafter, I have to ensure that asset is utilizing properly. I am not keeping the assets idle. I am not keeping the assets idle. I am efficiently utilizing the assets. Okay. So no wastage of money, no idle assets. Controlling consists of two aspects: no wastage of money and no assets, no idle assets. Okay. Planning, three aspects: short-term funds requirement, medium-term requirements, and long-term funds requirement. Controlling, no wastage of money and no idle assets. Okay. These are the point. So basically, this is the question: scope and objective of financial management. So what is difference between scope and objective? Very simple. Scope means what we have to do. Object means why we have to do. Very simple. Scope means what we have to do, and objective means why we have to do. Very basic clarity. Not just mugging up the theory, mugging up the theoretical questions. Scope should be very clear of what you are doing, what you have to do. Objective means why we have to do. Scope means what we have to do. Objective means why we have to do. Okay. So in fact, frankly speaking, this is one of my interview question. This is one of my interview question after qualifying CA. When I went to the software company for a finance manager job, the first basic question they asked is this point: what is the scope of financial management? Frankly speaking, I am unable to give this answer at that time, because we learned this in CA Inter, and when we became CA final, obviously we'll forget the basics. So frankly, I'm admitting that this is the question posed by the management or directors to me in the interview, and I have failed to give this answer. Now, since I'm in the academics, I'm able to recollect the basics and recap the basics. But during the interview, I failed to answer this question. That is the drawback of forgetting fundamentals. Forgetting fundamentals. I did that mistake. I'm not expecting you to do that mistake. Rectify mistake. Okay, don't commit the same mistake which I have committed. Be stick on to the basics. Never ever forget the basics. Okay. So, what is the scope of financial management? Efficient procurement of funds and efficient utilization of funds. Basically, so getting the funds and using the funds. So getting the funds and using the funds properly getting the funds and properly utilizing the funds. That is the scope. So why you are doing this? Why you are efficiently? Why you are carefully borrowing the funds? Why you are carefully acquiring the funds? Why you are carefully utilizing the funds? Why you are doing all these things? Not just for a time pass exercise. It's to make profit for the owners, for the equity shareholders. So for the equity shareholders, we have to maximize their wealth. We have to make profit. We have to give profit to the shareholders. That is what this point. What you are doing and why you are doing. Next. So efficient procurement of funds. So there are different ways people unnecessarily complicate as the number of financial courses increases, as the education field develops. So we keep on complicating the simple things. I don't like that complication of simple things. So within the debt, there are 101 things. We call it as a debentures, bonds, commercial papers, all those stuff. But I want to make it very simple, broadly two categories. The debt, equity. Broadly two categories, debt, equity. Within the debt, there are 101 types. Therefore, I'm keeping my lecture very simple and straightforward. Debt and equity. Borrowed funds or own funds. Within the borrowed funds, you put 101 names and 101 conditions. Basically, the balance is these two. Debt and equity. Okay, borrowed funds and own funds. Borrowed funds and own funds. So both are required. Both are required. Sir, which is required? Sir, which is the best? No, both are best. Whether sugar is best to the body or salt is best to the body, both are required. Whether as a human being, whether you want more sugar or more salt, no. Nothing is more. Everything is within the limits. Nothing is extremes. Everything is equilibrium. Balance. Therefore, it is not that equity is good and debt is bad. It is not that debt is good and equity is bad. It depends upon the dose, how much quantity we are using, how much quantity you are using. The same sugar will give us glucose to the body, energy to the body, and the same sugar will reduce the immunity power of the body. As simple as that. Sugar will increase the glucose level, energy levels in the body. The same sugar will reduce our immunity power. That is, it depends upon how much dose you are taking, depends upon the situation to situation. Therefore, there is no single blanket rule that debt is bad, equity is good, or equity is bad, debt is good. No, depends upon the situation, depends upon the amount. We have to balance both. We need both debt and we need both equity. Okay, right. Next, before deciding on whether debt is good or whether equity is good, these are the three factors you need to consider. Before deciding on whether debt is good or whether equity is good, these are the three factors we need to consider. Cost, risk, control. Cost, risk, control. So equity, what is the cost, what is the risk, and what is the control? Remember, this I am discussing from the company's point of view. We are going to become a financial advisor for the company. I'm not talking about personal financial advisor to the shareholders. So I am not training you to become a personal financial advisor to the shareholders. I am training you to become a financial advisor to the company. Therefore, cost, risk, control, I am thinking from the company's point of view, not from the shareholders' point of view. Shareholders are the givers of funds. Company is the receiver of funds. Shareholders are the givers of funds. Company is the receiver of funds. Now I'm talking about the company's side, receiver of funds. Okay. So from the company's side, equity is less risky. Remember, from the company's side, equity is very less risky. Sir, why equity is less risky from the company's point of view? Why equity is less risky? Because no necessity to pay your dividend, no necessity to repay the capital, no pressure, no mental pressure on the company to pay the dividend, no mental pressure on the company to repay the capital. From the company's point of view, issuing equity shares is less risky. Maybe from the investor point of view, purchasing equity shares is more risky. From the investor's point of view, purchasing equity shares is more risky. But from the company's point of view, issuing equity shares is less risky. Therefore, be clear, I am talking about from the company's point of view. If you are the advisor to the investors, then the reverse will follow. If you are the advisor to the investor or individual, then you have to reverse this situation. I'm thinking from the company's point of view. So from the company's point of view, issuing equity is less risky because no obligation to pay dividend, no obligation to repay capital. Next, cost. Remember, since equity risk to the company is less, risk to the company is less, equity shares risk to the company is less, but at the same time risk to the shareholders is more, obviously. So when the company issues equity shares, for the company risk is less, but for the equity shareholder the risk is more. So since equity shareholders are taking more risk, they will expect more return. That equity shareholders expectation of return is nothing but cost to the company. Okay, expected return on equity is from the investor's point of view. Expected return on equity is from the investor's point of view. Cost of equity is from the company's point of view. Okay, equity shareholders are taking more risk. Equity shareholders are taking more risk. Therefore, they will expect higher returns from the company. Their higher expected returns is nothing but higher cost to the company. Okay, equity shareholders are taking more risk. They will expect more return. That more return is nothing but more cost or high cost to the company. So for company, equity shares are high cost. And control. If the company issues new equity shares, the existing shareholders' control over the company will get diluted. If a company issues new equity shares, the existing shareholders' control over the company gets diluted. That is the advantage. That is the drawback. Dilution of control. This is for the equity. Then for the debt, cost is low because the debenture holders are not taking risk irrespective of the company profits. Irrespective of the company position, we have to pay the interest. That means debenture holders are not taking much risk compared to equity. Compared to equity, the risk taken by the debenture holders is less. Compared to equity, the risk taken by the debenture holders is less. Therefore, obviously, they will expect less returns. Accordingly, the risk to the company is high. Why the risk to the company is high? Because when a company issues debentures or when a company borrows funds, irrespective of the profits, company has to pay interest, company has to repay capital. Therefore, high risk. Irrespective of profit, there is a mandatory obligation to pay the interest, to repay the principal amount. High mental pressure on the companies to pay interest and to pay principal. Debt is very dangerous. After a particular limit, up to certain limit, debt is very good. But beyond that limit, debt is very, very bad. Up to a certain limit, debt is very good, but beyond a particular point, debt is very, very risky. Okay, right. So risk is high and dilution of control, no. Because debt holders, that is debenture holders or bankers, usually will not get control over the company, will not get any voting rights at the meetings of the company. Therefore, the existing shareholders' control is maintained intact. The existing shareholders' control over the company is maintained intact. It is not getting diluted. Okay, these are the point. From the company's point of view, equity is high cost, low risk, and no dilution of control. So there is a dilution of control. Equity, high cost, low risk, and there is a dilution of control. Okay, in case of debt, debentures or bank loans, etc., debt, So cost is low, risk is high, and there is no dilution of control. And there is no dilution of control. Okay. So remaining we'll discuss the next lecture.